Go spit it out. Spit it out. Come on.
I'm working on it.
Okay, my wife always says I hem and haw. So.
That's it. What is the most predominant crime or reason for the district attorney to have to prosecute in the county at this time?
Well, my job as district attorney is to prosecute all crimes throughout the county. If you take a look at the predominance of crimes, I think we're like any other place in the country. It sort of runs the spectrum. Of course, last year we had homicides, 8 homicides in the county. This year we've had 1, and that's more typical of what we get. What I find to be, I can't give you a precise figure on what we see and what the #1 crime is, but certainly drugs in the county are high, especially out of the city of Dunkirk and the city of Jamestown. Mm-hmm. You still have a fair share of course, domestic violence cases and of course, DWIs. But what I look at really more than anything is I look at drugs as being the underlying reason for an awful lot of the crimes. I mean, you can look at the statistics we have as far as drug possession and drug sales go and say, well, that number is certainly significant for the total number of cases we have per year. And by the way, we open up about 7,400 cases per year in the county. But even having said those particular cases, you also then have cases that are associated to drugs, burglaries,
right,
petty larcenies, these things of people committing crimes because of their addiction.
Right.
That's why I really have been a strong proponent since I've been the district attorney of the drug treatment court and trying to channel people, especially young people or first-time offenders who commit petty larcenies or crimes that are associated with their substance abuse into the programs. I like to think of myself as being sort of like Teddy Roosevelt. I carry the big stick and I force them into the program, and hopefully what we see once they get into these programs, they enter, I think, thinking that it's going to be an easy sort of thing for them to do and they'll get through it and then their life will be simple again and they can go back to their ways. But what we're finding is a lot of these people that enter these programs realize that being addicted to a drug isn't the way they want to lead their lives, and we provide them with the tools to be able to handle their addiction. And we're finding that the recidivism rate or repeat rate of these people reoffending after they get out of these programs is lower than if we just send them to spend 9 months in the county jail.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Education.
Education, and that's what I said earlier about the DWIs. I think, part of my job, and my job is to serve justice in the county, and I think that really is a very wide spectrum of things you need to do, and one of those is education. Not only telling people about what my office does and how we do it, but getting out there and teaching young people that, you really shouldn't even try drugs or experiment with them because it can spiral your life out of control relatively quickly.
Do you find that there's a difference in the crime rate depending on the weather?
I mean, if you look at the stats, yes. I mean, during the summertime, you have a tendency to have, I would call, more of the quality of life sort of crimes. You have more petty larcenies. You have people are out and about, and people are getting into scuffles. People are doing things because they're out and they're exposed to other people. Mm-hmm. I would say that the crimes of violence, burglaries, assaults and things like that, they're happening all the time. But a lot of those sorts of crimes, their base, quite frankly, oftentimes are domestic. Oftentimes the person that is committing the assault against you is oftentimes most of the time someone that you know.
Right, right.
Well, thank you, caller.
Well, thank you very much, and enjoyed the day. And the next few days are going to get warmer. Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
There we go. There we go.
And a special hello to Mr. and Mrs. B at our local dance studio, who do such a wonderful job with the young people.
Okay, fine.
Of the time.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have a nice day too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's. They say the moon has something to do with crime.
Well, I've never really run the statistics on that, but they say a full moon
brings on crime for some reason. People go out and howl and do all kinds of crazy things when the full moon's out.
Maybe it has something to do with the magnetic pole or something. I don't know.
It could be. The attraction or whatever.
I certainly think that seasonally you're going to see a difference in crime, only because, unlike places like Florida, of course, here people are out and about in the summer, and in the winter they have a tendency to stay more indoors.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true, because out here, if you're snuggled down in front of the fire, you're not going to be out robbing a store or beating somebody up.
No.
Or drinking. Well, you might be drinking, but you stay home. You're not going to be driving around in the blizzard.
That's right. Hopefully not.
We've got with us Dave Foley, our Chautauqua County District Attorney. The phones are open. Anybody calls in receives some nice gifts. And I would like to say that we have a fairly peaceful little community up here. Only 8 murders last year, which is not bad. You figure in New York they have a murder every 25 seconds or something.
Even if you look at Buffalo, who's had a very high murder rate this year. You know, I don't mean to, when we talk about what I do and the job that I do, we really do live in a very safe community. Although we've seen our statistics go up and the number of cases we open up rise, that's due in part not only to maybe some increase in crime, but we also have law enforcement out there doing a wonderful job. Yeah,
there's an increase in law enforcement. They tell us how our drunk driving has, first of all, risen tremendously at first and over recent times, and that's probably because back when I was a kid, nobody got pulled over for drunk driving unless you did something totally erratic or crazy or had an accident. People knew who the drunks were, and they just kept out of their way. But there was no way to tell whether they were really drunk until they came up with a breathalyzer. And now you can tell.
Right.
And so now there's a lot more prosecution. It's harder. People are being checked out more thoroughly, and it's they've raised the ante. I mean, it used to be you got slapped on the hand, but now you go to jail, and it could be even worse. So,
well, they certainly have stepped up law enforcement, and that, of course, is going to result in an increased crime rate, which some people may indicate is bad, but in effect, I think a lot of it has to do with the increase in law enforcement.
When I had Pat McGee on regularly, God bless her, she and I used to have a little debate every time because she was hot on taking away the right to drink from 18-year-olds, which was established back in the eons, and it's all around the world that 18-year-olds can drink. But only in the United States, in certain selected areas, they have to be 21. So an 18-year-old who's got his hand on the atomic switch, in the meantime, can't have a beer with his spaghetti, you know? Right. It's almost insane. He can't go to a nice restaurant and have a glass of wine until he's 21. And she used to argue, well, that shows it works because our drunk driving's gone down. But I think the drunk driving's gone down because of greater awareness and greater police enforcement, and you're prosecuting it.
I think that's accurate. I think it's a combination of law enforcement. I think it's a combination of prosecution. And I think it's a combination of education. I think kids out there are more aware of it. They have designated drivers more. I mean, they realize that the impact of it, and I think that's the reason.
Yeah, the kids who do drink, of course, it's made scofflaws out of everybody, all the teenagers in our countries in college, because you know the kids in college drink. There's no question about it. And they are doing it illegally, and they know it, so they're just basically thumbing their nose at the law now.
Well, I mean, the thing that's always, and not in particular to that, I mean, New York State is going to pass a law, and it's my obligation to enforce it.
Yeah,
What's always sort of bothered me about it is the fact that the federal government steps in and sort of imposes this on the states and says, we're going to take away your federal highway money unless you make the drinking age 21. I just don't like the federal government stepping in and sort of cramming it down states' throats like
telling us, and of course they use tools to force you to do it, like taking away the highway funding. Right. We're not forcing you to do this, but we are, you know, no question about it.
I mean, having gone to law school, I was a history major in undergrad, and I really enjoyed constitutional law, and having taken the class in law school, it was a year-long class, and I took some classes afterwards. I'm somewhat of a strict constructionist of the Constitution, so I sometimes these things that I see happening bother me a little bit.
Yeah, we got a couple of calls still. Do you want to take one?
Absolutely.
Hey, morning caller. Thank you for waiting.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay.
How you doing down there, where we are?
Very good. Are there more drugs and marijuana smoking in these economic times?
With the downcline of economics, well, I've always have maintained that crime and the economic status of any community go hand in hand, and I've always believed that if someone's self-esteem and self-worth is gone because they lack employment, they're more likely to get involved with drugs, drug addiction, more likely to commit crimes. I always think that crimes oftentimes are